Like our video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more amazing content.
There are moments in football when a match becomes something larger than itself, when the 90 minutes are almost secondary to the context surrounding them, when everything that has been building for weeks, the logistics, the diplomacy, the institutional battles, the human stories, converges in a single fixture on a single evening in a specific city and produces a statement that the sport has rarely been asked to carry before. Tonight at Lumen Field in Seattle, Iran play Egypt, a group stage match in Group G at the 2026 World Cup. In footballing terms, the stakes are clear. Iran have 0 points from 2 draws against New Zealand and Belgium. Egypt have 4 points, already close to qualification. Tonight is, in competitive terms, a match that Egypt need only not lose to advance, while Iran need to win and hope the results fall correctly elsewhere. In those terms alone, it is an important match, but that is the smallest part of what tonight represents. Because in the 72 hours before this match, Iran's Football Federation released a formal statement through Fars news agency that has circulated around the world's football media and generated a response that goes well beyond the usual pre-match coverage. The statement, issued by the media division of Iran's national football team, addressed a specific pre-match controversy, one involving planned promotional activities connected to Seattle's Pride celebrations that were scheduled to take place inside or around the stadium during this fixture. And it did so in terms that are measured, institutional, and more revealing about the full complexity of Iran's World Cup experience than any single press conference could have achieved. The Federation's statement confirmed that both Iran and Egypt had formally conveyed their concerns and positions to FIFA through multiple letters and meetings. It confirmed that FIFA, in turn, had assured both teams that no ceremonies or promotional activities related to this matter would be held inside the stadium or as part of the official match program. It stated that Iran's position had been officially communicated to FIFA through official channels, and that FIFA had pledged to take the necessary measures to ensure that commitment was honored. Then the statement made a specific observation that deserves to be read carefully. It noted that Iran and Egypt are 2 Muslim countries with deep cultural and religious ties, and that the viewpoints raised by both federations reflect the shared values and beliefs of both nations' peoples. And then it said something that goes beyond this specific controversy entirely. It said the Federation believes FIFA must take into account the views and concerns of the participating teams when deciding on the match environment and how programs are conducted inside the stadium. That sentence is not about Pride events specifically. It is about something structural. It is a federation, one that has navigated more adversity at this World Cup than any other team in the competition, formally asserting that the institution governing the tournament is obligated to listen to the people competing in it. That is the powerful message, not the specific complaint, the principle underneath it. Now, let's set that statement in its full context, because to understand what Iran's federation was saying, you need to understand everything this team has already been through simply to be at Lumen Field tonight. Iran were at war with the United States when this tournament began. Their sports minister appeared on state television before the tournament and said under no circumstances could they participate. The resolution required Mexico to open its border. Iran has been sleeping in Tijuana and crossing into the United States on match days. 15 Federation officials, including the Federation president and vice president, were denied American visas and cannot attend their own team's matches. The Federation accused the host nation of vindictive behavior. Their supporter ticket allocation was claimed to have been revoked, leaving them unable to offer a single ticket to their fans through official channels. And yet, their media staff were also denied visas. Iran's media division, the journalists and camera operators responsible for covering their own national team at the World Cup, could not obtain the credentials required to be in Seattle. That is what makes the second section of tonight's statement so significant. It didn't only address the Pride match controversy. It addressed what their journalists found when they arrived in Seattle despite being denied accreditation, or rather what they found happening without them. The statement described the presence of media outlets around the national team, at their hotel and at press conferences, that operate without FIFA credentials and focus on presenting a picture of the environment surrounding the team that the Iranian Federation says is contrary to reality.
In contrast to the absence of Iran's own accredited media, the statement describes hundreds of Iranian compatriots gathering at the team's accommodation in Seattle, chanting "Iran, Iran," demonstrating what it calls broad and passionate support for the national players. The Federation says these scenes have been deliberately censored by the outlets it describes. Whether that is a fully accurate characterization is something individual viewers must assess for themselves. What is documented and undeniable is this: hundreds of Iranians gathered outside their team's hotel in Seattle. The Iranian diaspora in the Pacific Northwest came out for their players. At 2 in the morning local time, with travel restrictions, with visa denials, with everything this team's supporters have navigated to simply be in the same city as their national team, they were there. And their team has given them something to come out for. Because amidst all of this, the Tijuana base camp, the denied officials, the revoked tickets, the Pride match controversy, the media restrictions, Iran have played 2 genuinely competitive World Cup matches. Against New Zealand, they came from behind twice to draw 2-2. Against Belgium, in the most extraordinary individual performance of this entire tournament, goalkeeper Alireza Behranvand made 7 saves, including 2 of the highest quality in any group stage match at this World Cup, was named player of the match, and kept Iran level through 90 minutes against a side containing Kevin De Bruyne and Romelu Lukaku. Iran's Taremi had a goal disallowed by VAR, and Belgium were reduced to 10 men. The final score was 0-0. Here's the interesting part. Because FIFA's response to the Pride match situation, the assurance given to both Iran and Egypt that no promotional activities would take place inside the stadium during tonight's match, is itself a story about institutional flexibility. The Pride match had been organized by the local committee, not by FIFA. It was announced and planned in advance as a way of connecting the World Cup fixture to Seattle's Pride celebrations. FIFA subsequently made clear that such branding and promotional activities are not part of the official match program, a statement that was consistent with the Federation's existing guidelines, which state that the World Cup is a sporting event, not a platform for any specific advocacy organization's activities, regardless of the cause. That position, stated clearly, was what both Iran and Egypt sought, and FIFA provided it. Which raises a question that the governing body has not fully answered. If the principle that the stadium match environment is neutral, free from external promotional campaigns, applies in this case, why has it not been applied consistently across other contexts at this tournament? Why were anti-discrimination messaging campaigns canceled without explanation at the Club World Cup last summer, but promotional activities organized by a local committee needed to be formally objected to by 2 federations before FIFA took a position? The answer to that question is complicated, and it reveals the genuine difficulty of managing a tournament that takes place across 16 cities in 3 countries, each with their own local committees, their own cultural landscapes, and their own relationships with FIFA's commercial and operational infrastructure. The governing body is not a single voice. It is a system with layers of authority and a history of inconsistent application of its own stated principles. What tonight's statement from Iran's federation reveals is that some teams, particularly those who have less institutional leverage, less commercial value to the tournament, less political protection, feel they have to formally assert rights that other teams simply assume they have. Now, bring in the Egyptian dimension, because Egypt's presence in this match adds another layer entirely. Egypt qualified for this World Cup under the shadow of an extraordinary near miss. They narrowly missed the 2022 tournament, losing on penalties in the Africa Cup of Nations final to Senegal. Mohamed Salah,
now 33 years old, arrived at this World Cup carrying more than 2 decades of professional career weight. Aware that this could be his final chance at the tournament he has never previously played at with real expectation of advancement. Egypt beat New Zealand 3-1 in their second match. Salah said afterwards that people will remember this for years to come. He was right. Egypt are in genuine contention to advance from this group. Their federation also sent a formal letter to FIFA Secretary-General Matthias Brafstrom, rejecting in absolute terms any LGBTQ connections to this match. Their language was different from Iran's, more direct in its rejection, less focused on the procedural principle. Together, the two federations created a situation FIFA had to navigate, in a tournament that has consistently told the world it welcomes everyone and stands for inclusion, while simultaneously being asked to guarantee that specific kinds of inclusion-related branding would not appear inside the match environment. The bigger issue here is what this sequence of events, the formal letters, the FIFA assurance, the federation's statement published hours before kickoff, tells us about the relationship between football's global institution and the specific cultural contexts of the nations competing within it. The World Cup has always asked teams to leave their broader world at the stadium gate, to compete as footballers rather than as representatives of political, cultural, or religious positions. That request has always been imperfect, because it has always been applied selectively. The history of the World Cup is full of moments where the stadium was not neutral, where flags, armbands, ceremonies, and promotional activities carried meanings that some nations welcomed and others objected to. Tonight's match does not resolve that tension. Nothing about one fixture resolves structural questions that have been building across decades of global football governance. What it does is make the tension visible and specific. Two federations from two nations with two sets of circumstances that have made their World Cup journey unlike any other teams, formally asserting a principle that the match environment should reflect the sport rather than the campaigns of any particular organization, and getting a formal response from FIFA that their position would be respected. That is not nothing. In a tournament where the governing body has often responded to federation concerns with statements of commitment that don't translate into operational change, a specific, documented assurance this activity will not take place inside the stadium during your match is a concrete outcome from a formal process. Whether it sets a precedent, whether it influences how FIFA manages the match environment in future editions, whether it reflects genuine institutional learning or simply the management of a specific situation that became too visible to handle otherwise, those are questions that will be answered over time, not tonight. What remains, beyond all of this context, is a football match. Two nations, both navigating complicated World Cup journeys in different ways, playing for survival and advancement at Lumen Field in Seattle. Byron Vond between the posts for Iran, the goalkeeper whose 7 saves against Belgium, and said they came here to make their people happy. Salah in the Egyptian attack, the man who said people will remember this for years to come. A crowd that will include hundreds of Iranians who came to their team's hotel and chanted their country's name, regardless of every barrier placed in front of them. Football has a way of making everything else secondary for 90 minutes. The institutional statements, the formal letters, the visa denials, the Tijuana base camp, they don't disappear inside the stadium, but they share the space with a ball and 2 teams and players who have given their entire professional lives to be in exactly this kind of moment. What do you think? Of everything Iran has navigated at this tournament, of the statement their federation issued before this match, of the principle they formally asserted to FIFA about the match environment, does it change how you watch tonight's football? Or does the game, when it starts, become the only thing that matters?